Hey guys, this is Jen. We just got back from our little trip to LA where we had stayed for the Anime Jungles tournament, which was really fun. We met a lot of cool people and we met up with Miles from Nexus Core. He's pretty cool. He helped me pay for my entry because I'm broke. And so I'm bringing you guys a very special deck list that won third. I'm very proud. You should be too. So very special deck list. So for our starter today is Neon Gyze. This is a Gyze deck, so we run the Gyze starter, of course. So he's grade 0. This is the grade 0 side. He's got 5k power and he's got 4 different skills. So he's got, when you ride on top of him, instead of calling him for Forerunner or just staying in Soul, he goes face up to the G zone, but he does not count towards GB. But older units like Lambros or Conquest Dragon, they just say face up cards in G zone, so he does work towards that, but not GB skills. And then he has a continuous in the G zone. Instead of getting the increase of the power, you'd get the red tech skill, bind a Zeroth Dragon face up instead. So if you drive check like a draw trigger, instead of getting the 5k in the draw, you draw and bind a Zeroth Dragon face up. And then continuous in the G zone, your Zeroth Dragons in your bind zone cannot move to other areas. So cards like in Nubatama, they can get rid of some cards in your bind zone because it's Nubatama, that's what they do, but that will not work because he says so. And then for the 4th and last skill, we have his Ultimate Stride skill, which you only need to discard a copy of your grade 3 Vanguard and have 5 Zeroth Dragons in the bind zone. You do not have to be at GB3 to do this. So if your opponent is really far behind and they're on grade 2, but you've hit 5 triggers and you have a copy of your grade 3, you can go into Gyze. So really good. So you discard a card with the same name as your Vanguard, and then flip him over, remove all cards from Circles, Vanguard, and G Zone, and stride him on your Vanguard circle. So he becomes your permanent Vanguard for the rest of the game. And on the flip side, we have his Ultimate Stride form, the grade 4, Dragon Deity of Destruction Gyze. So he has got 3 skills. He's got an auto when he's placed on Vanguard circle. You choose 5 Zeroth Dragons from your bind zone and call them. And then he has a continuous, you cannot ride or call any rear guards other than the Zeroth Dragons, and your Zeroth Dragons cannot be affected by anything really, except for special cases like Deluge, and he cannot be affected by anything other than your Guardians. So he's kind of just a wall. Like a Gyze mirror match is terrible for both people. And then his last skill is at the beginning of your turn, you deal 1 damage to the opponent for each Zeroth Dragons. So unless you're against like Chaos Breaker, you're dealing 5 damage at the beginning of every one of your turns because you just can't get rid of the Zeroth Dragons. So he's a pretty good win con. A lot of people run him in Angel Feather since they can sack, as well as like Amaruta because they can stack their deck. But not me. Oh no. So for our grade 3s, the most important unit in the entire deck, we're running 4 copies of Sealed Demon Dragon Dungaree. He won me many a game. This is my boy. I love him. Look at all the SPs. Alright, so as you all probably know already, he's got 3 skills. He's got his Act, Limit Break 4, Counterblast 1, and choose a card bound with his effect and put it on the bottom of your deck. You retire one of the opponent's rear guards in the front row, and he cannot be used again during the turn. So once per turn before once per turn was the thing. And then he has a continuous Vanguard or rearguard circle if you do not have any cards bound from this card's effect, he gets minus 2k, so if you call him the rearguard circle, he is unfortunately a grade, or he is a grade 2 essentially, he's got a 9k base. But you don't want to be calling your grade 3s, you don't really want to be calling rearguards at all in this deck, so that's completely fine. And then he lastly has an auto skill. When he's placed, you bind the top 2 cards of your deck face up. So, yeah, it's Dungaree. We're running it because it's my boy, Dungaree. Alright, next up, we're running 4 copies of Dungaree. Demon Conquering Dragon, Dungaree Unlimited. This is arguably the better Dungaree, but it honestly doesn't matter in this deck. We're just running it because it's Dungaree. So he has 3 skills as well. He's got a auto limit break. When he attacks, you counterblast 2, bind a card face up from the top of your deck, and then you retire one of the opponent's rearguards in the front row, and he gets 2k for every card in your bind zone. So he can get pretty beefy. You're probably never going to use any of these skills, but you know, they're there in case you need to. And then he has a continuous. If you have an OG Dungaree, this boy in your soul, he gets plus 2k because he's a cross ride. He's a good boy. Gives you some defensive powers, defensive power, and against something like a force deck, he can actually hit. It's amazing. And then lastly, he has Vanguard or Rearguard Circle Lord. So against the Nubatama matchup, you can call these and they will not attack. They will not get their M by power. Very good boy. Alright, now on to grade 2s. We're running 3 copies of Dragon Monk Kinkaku. A lot of you probably don't even know what this card is because it's so old. So these are the OG Limit Break enablers. Every clan had a grade 1 and 2 that had the exact same skill. And it was supposed to get your limit break off before you were at limit break, you know, like the grade 1 that every clan has now that just says if you have 4 or less damage, your limit break is active. These are those, but before those were a thing. So, grade 2, he's got 8k base. That's important. All of our grade 2s are 8k bases because this is a Gyze deck and you don't want to deal the opponent damage. And because you're not getting any extra power due to Gyze's skill, this most of the time will not hit unless the opponent's still at a grade 1. So, yeah. And then, so he's got an auto skill when he's placed, and you have a Cardfight Vanguard, which you will because Dungaree. You can counterblast 1, put the top card of your deck into the damage zone face up, and then at the end of the turn, choose a card from your damage zone and shuffle it back to deck. So this is not Angel Feather. If you're at 5 damage and you use this boy, it's game. You just killed yourself, so don't do that. His main purpose is to get your triggers that you damage checked out of the damage zone and back into deck because you want to drive check them or damage check them some more so you can get Xerath Dragons bound quicker. As well as you do not want your opponent healing. You want them to die to your damage off of Gyze. So you most of the time just want to stay at 5 damage, take a lot because you want to hit triggers. And this guy, like, early in the game, you can call him and say the opponent has, like, 2 damage and you're only at 1. You can call him, get a couple more damage, and so the opponent cannot heal, but at the end of the turn, you'll go back to having, like, 1 damage. So, really, really solid. I really like him. Next, because this is an Otacami deck, and we can... and it's highly recommended, we're running 4 copies of Demonic Dragon Berserker. I cannot talk today. Chatura. Also an 8k. Like I said, all of our grade 2s are 8ks. So he's it's not even arguably. He's the best grade 2 Notakami has and has had for a very long time. So he's got 2 skills. He's got this unit cannot attack a rear guard because he's too strong. That'd break him. And then he has a continuous during your turn. He gets 11k. Well, no, he doesn't get 11k. He gets 3k, which makes him an 11k beater, and an auto rearguard circle. When his attack hits, you can counterblast one. You bind a card from the opponent's drop. You get to choose, and you draw a card. We are only running him because he draws a card. That's literally it. We don't care how big of a beater he is. It's just the fact that you need a hand in this deck. So he draws, and he applies a little bit of on-hit pressure so the opponent has a reason not to take him, even if they only have 1 or no damage. So, running 4 of him. And lastly, for grade 2s, we're running 3 Desert Gunner Kojins. Very obscure card. It came out in GB205. It is the superior guard that we had gotten, the Thunderstrike to GB1. He gets plus 10k shield, because for the most part you need to play very defensively, and you need to have a lot of cards in hand, so you don't want to drop as much for guard. We're running 3 of him, so you have a basically free 15k guard, because you can get Thunderstrike 2 pretty easily with things like the new Vanquisher Stride, as well as Chatuda and the G guard. So we're running 3 of him. Very good. Came in clutch the entire 4 games that I had. For grade 1s, we're running a girl, Dragon Dancer Anastasia. This is the OG one that was like a $30 card at one point in time, but now she's like worth nothing, but I still want to get a use out of her, so here she is. So this deck is more retire based. We're going more old school Notakami, so we don't get Thunderstrike 4 very often, if ever. So the new Anastasia wasn't really worth it, even though it is a free draw. It's just not attainable, usually. So we are running the Countercharger one, because why not run a PG with a skill? You don't want to guard your rear guards, so the Vanguard only guarding doesn't really matter. So yeah, she's just there because she's the best one with the skill we have, and why not? Alright, next we are running 3 copies of Mighty Bolt Dragoon, the Vanquisher Stride Fodder. You don't care about the first skill because we only run Dungaree in this deck. Dungaree is best boy, and we will not have Vanquisher coming in. So, he's only ran because he's Stride Fodder, and you don't want to discard your grade 3s because you need to save those to discard for Gyze. So, pretty self-explanatory. Stride Fodder, normal thing to see in a deck. Next, we are running 3 copies of Dragon Monk Ginkaku. This is exactly the same skill as Dragon Monk Ginkaku, so it's the Limit Break Enabler before Limit Break Enabler was a thing. So it's the on place, counterblast 1, put the top card of your deck into the damage zone face up, and then at the end of the turn, put a card in the damage zone back to deck. So, running him for the same reason we're running the grade 2. Yeah. Lastly, for grade 1s, we're running 4 copies of Sturdy Feet Brawler Tokon. This is a good boy. I like him a lot. He was very hard to get a hold of. So, he's got 1 skill, and he's only useful as a first ride. Other than that, you're just going to discard him for PGs, you're going to discard him for stride. Like, he's only good for that first ride, and that's why we're running so many of him, so we can hit him for our first ride. So he's got an auto skill, Vanguard or Rearguard Circle when he attacks. If there are no rearguards in your opponent's front row, he gets plus 3k until the end of the battle. So by the time you ride, it is like I've never had an opponent have rearguards before, because who calls rear guards like on the first turn. So you're almost always going to get his 3k, and because it's a 10k, they'll usually just take it because they don't want to drop the 5k shield that early in the game. So that's usually this is the only damage the opponent will get, so it's usually best that they take this guy, but sometimes they will drop the shield, in which case they'll never get a damage until Gyze. So, on to zeros. We're running one copy of Spark Kid Dragoon. We're running him because we need to get the grade 3s in hand. We do not run him as our starter, we run him in deck because it's an extra 10k shield, which is nice, as well as, like I said, you can get your grade 3 with him. So, he's got the Pioneer skill. When another Notakami raids this unit, call him the rear guard circle. Don't worry about that, you're never going to use it because Gyze is your starter. We run him for the Act skill, which is Counterblast 1, put him into Soul, check the top 5 cards of your deck for a grade 3, add it to hand, and shuffle your deck. So, yeah, just to get the copy of your grade 3, if you're having problems getting it, yeah, just a little extra help. Helps a lot. On to triggers. We're running 6 vanilla draw triggers because, like I said, you want to play defensively and you want to have a lot of cards in hand to be able to guard things without dropping too many cards. So we're running 6 draw triggers. They're vanillas because Notakami doesn't have any with effects. We didn't get a Margle draw, we got Margle crits, 2 different ones, so vanillas. Plus this verb is cute, I love it. Next, we're running 4 copies of Dragon Dancer VN because 2 reasons why we're running this. 1, because, okay, 3 reasons we're running this. 1, because it's a 10k guard, which is really nice, so you don't have to drop as much to guard. 2, because it's a trigger that goes back to the deck, and Notakami doesn't have a lot of those. So she's like one of the 3, I think, in the entire clan. And one of those is sub-clan restricted. So yeah, we're running her at 4. She's a good girl. And 3, we're running her because this deck is a more retire-based deck. We don't focus around Thunderstrike. So we will be getting her back to deck and getting a draw off of her. So she has 1 skill, she has an auto GB1, rear guard circle. When she sees something be retired, you can put her on top of deck, shuffle the deck, countercharge 1, and draw a card. So she gets back resources, and she essentially refunds herself for you calling her. Really nice. Really nice. And then we're running 2 copies of Brawler Street Fight Dragon. This is the other, this is the only other trigger that goes back to deck that's not completely sub-clan restricted, because you're allowed to pay the cost without doing the skill, because it's just do as much as you can. So you can pay the cost, which is put him back to deck and shuffle. So we're running him because it's a trigger that goes back to deck. The crit can honestly be a little annoying because you don't want to deal the opponent too much damage, and sometimes you won't have rear guards to put the crit on, so you're giving the opponent 2 free damage. But other than that, it's still good because you do want to drive check them or damage check them, so yeah. Plus the added threat of crits will make them guard, so yeah. Lastly, we're running 4 heals. Meditate Draco Kid. You can run whatever heals you want because honestly, once we get the new standard triggers, I'll probably replace them because I don't need this skill. I don't think Notakami as a whole needs this skill because we have good resource management. Running him because he's shiny and he's adorable. I love him. So, 4 heals. Run whichever ones you want. If you want to run the waifu ones, go ahead. I'm not going to stop you. 4 strides. We're running 4 Conquering Supreme Dragon, Conquest Dragon, the boy, the counter to Harry. Do you guys remember him? No? Okay. So this was like the first stride aside from Zoros, and he was like your main stride because he got a lot of power back in the day and he got rid of the opponent's intercepts. He was so good, but now he's not anymore. But like I said earlier, he does not have GB. He was before the time of GB skills, so he just says when you have 2 or more face up. So when you pay his cost, because Gyze is face up in your G zone, you'll get all of his skill first stride. So it's really good because of that. So he's essentially your main stride you want to go into because you do want to get rid of the opponent's hitters because, like I said, you're playing defensively, as well as he retires and not binds, so you get your VN skills off. So he's got an act, Vanguard Circle once per turn, flip a copy of himself, and if you have, flip a copy face up. If you have 2 or more face up cards in your G zone, you retire opponent's rearguard in their front row, and then all of your units in the front row get plus 5k for each empty circle in the opponent's front row. So your front row can get 10k. Generally, it'll just be your Vanguard because you don't really want to call things from hand unless you're really, really desperate and just want to, like, kill them in that turn, like you're just not going to make it. So, yeah, really nice because his skill can be used first stride. Next, we're running 2 copies of V-Buster. That's right, Sparking's the grade 3, my bad. Okay, V-Buster is the one I was talking about. So, Conquering Supreme Dragon, Vanquisher V-Buster. So we're running him in essentially as just like a backup plan, or like if you're really like needing the Thunderstrike 2 for Gojin, I think his name is, the Superior Guard, you can always just go into him. He's not bad because he does control a little bit. Just don't expect to get his GB3 off unless you've like gone into the GB8 already, which doesn't happen very often, but I did win by doing this, so it can. So he's got 2 skills. He's got an act, Vanguard Circle once per turn, Soul Blast 1, and flip a copy of himself face up. Your opponent chooses a card on their rearguard and a card in their drop zone, binds them face up, and then if you have more rearguards than your opponent, choose 3 things, give them 3k. And then he has a continuous Vanguard Circle GB3, Thunderstrike 7, all of your front row units get plus 5k, and this unit gets a crit and an extra drive. So the crit honestly is what won me that game because I had gone into the GB8 and this was all I had left. I wasn't hitting triggers that game, so I wasn't able to go into Gyze, so I just went into him and the crit just finished the opponent off. So it can happen that he'll save you. Next, we're running 1 copy of Conquering Supreme Dragon, Closer Dragon, the GB8. Still arguably one of the best GB8s in the game just because it's so strong and you can get to it pretty easily. So he's got the auto GB8. When this unit is placed on Vanguard, retire all rearguards of all players, and then your opponent binds their drop zone, all of the cards in their drop zone face up, and then he gets a red text. All of your units get plus 2k for every card in all players' bind zones. So because we're binding the Zaroth Dragons and Dungaree does a bit of self-bind, usually you'll have like I don't know, 5, 6 cards in your own, and that's already an extra 10k. Plus however many the opponent has gone into, because you really don't go into him very often, you usually just go into Gyze, but on the off chance you do, your things are huge. That's just when you just want to call full board and just go for it. So, really nice still. And then for our last strides, you want to run 1 Drachma and then 4 other Zaroth Dragons of choice. You want to run Drachma because this is a Dragon Empire clan, and if Gyze just isn't working, usually you want him to be the last thing you bind because there's still a possibility that you just normal ultimate stride into him and win games. But yeah, just choose whichever other Zeroth Dragons you like. I obviously don't have Zoa because I sold it with my Asha deck, but I have the other ones. They're all ZR, which is the only ones that are acceptable. So, it's 5 Zeroth Dragons, one of them being Drachma. For G-Guards, we're running 1 copy of Sky Guardian, Supreme Dragon, and Impede Dragon. The best G-Guard in the entire clan. It's so good. I'd probably want to run 2 of it, but I don't have 2 of it, I only have 1 of it, so we're running 1 of it. So he's the Flipper G-Guard, he's GB1. When he's placed, flip a G-Guardian face up. The opponent retire binds one of their rear guards, and then if they have 2 or more rear guards than you, they retire another one. So he does some really nice board control, and especially because you don't call, really, anything, so you're almost always going to get both of the retires off. So, really good. Next, we are running 1 Sky Guardian Supreme Dragon Bulwark Dragon. He's honestly kind of useless. Yeah, I'd probably put in another Impede Dragon, but because I don't have that, we're running Bulwark just because you can get to Thunderstrike 3, so it's an easy 10k shield. Sometimes you could potentially get the retire skill off, but it's not going to happen very often. So, he's got 2 skills. He's got a continuous Guardian Circle, Thunderstrike 3. This unit gets plus 10k, pretty simple. And then he has an auto at the end of the battle that this unit was placed on Guardian Circle. For every 4 cards in the opponent's bind zone, you choose one of their rested rear guards in the front row and retire them. So, mainly just there for the 10k. I'd probably take him out for an Impede Dragon, but yeah. And then lastly, we're running 2 copies of Mystic Wisdom Creation Brahma. This is the Dungaree G-Guard. It was made specifically for Dungaree, and you cannot sway me otherwise. So, he's got 1 skill when he's placed on Guardian Circle. You choose 2 cards with different grades from your drop zone and bind them, and he gets plus 10k shield until end of battle. So he's a very easy 10k shield, and because this is Dungaree, it helps boost up Dungaree's power, it helps boost up your GB8's power. Just an overall really solid G-Guard. So, yeah, that was my deck list. I won 3rd place with it at the Anime Jungle, my first tournament there, so I'm pretty proud of that. Miles, your $3 did not go to waste. I promise you that. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure I left my mark on LA. I'm retiring until probably this autumn when we go back. But until then, yeah, I'm going to continue to make changes to this deck because this is my baby deck. I love him. So, yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the deck list. Bye!